Welcome to the Lead and Groove. Tonight we have Daniel from Aesthetic Perfection. I thank you so much for taking your time to be with us tonight.
My pleasure, no problem at all.
So I want to know a little bit about. Let's kind of start in what I call the Wayback Machine and talk about like first albums you remember buying, like the first album that you remember hearing, going, "Oh my God, this is I've got to do this."
Yeah. Well, the first record that I ever bought was Too Legit to Quit
Okay.
by MC Hammer.
Yeah.
I bought that on cassette tape at, man, I wish I could remember the name of the record store chain. It doesn't exist anymore. It might have been Warehouse Music. I don't know. But either way, I remember I saved up my lunch money.
CD Warehouse was a big chain back.
This must have been 1989.
Okay.
1990, something
Yeah.
like that. So Too Legit to Quit, because of course, Too Legit to Quit and the title track from the Addams Family song movie. So he did like a song on the soundtrack for the Addams Family
That's
movie,
awesome.
which I was just
How
like
old
super
were you
addicted
at this
to.
point? Do you remember?
Born in '83.
Okay,
So
I
I must have been 7,
Right.
8 if it was in the early '90s.
about the same time I bought my first cassette.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Eagles, Hotel California.
Nice.
I got a couple years on you.
Yeah, so that was the actual first thing I ever bought, and then I think I got into music as I got older because it was forbidden. I grew up in a very strict evangelical Christian home,
Okay.
and rock music was just absolutely taboo. So whenever my family was not watching, I would turn on MTV and just like sneak whatever kind of like 30, 40 seconds I could before I could hear somebody coming down the hall and quickly switch back to
Do you,
like
you remember a video that blew your mind, or?
the first music video I ever saw was Give It Away by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay.
Yeah.
They played here.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And I got into like Offspring and Green Day and all that, but around 11, 12, 13, a colleague of my mom's said, "Oh, if your kid likes Green Day, he's gonna love this," and gave her a cassette of Broken by Nine Inch Nails, which couldn't be like further from
Right.
Green Day's Dookie, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, if he likes Basket Case by Green Day, he's just gonna love Wish,
Yeah.
containing lyrics about fist effing. I don't know if I can swear, but yeah, it was yeah. So it was definitely a turning point for me musically, and I remember that after hearing that record, that's when I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
Very good. So that was kind of your introduction to the industrial
Yeah.
scene, and interesting enough. I mean, I think where I've heard you say you're industrial pop. Those of us that were like hardcore into industrial, I always considered Nine Inch Nails more of that pop industrial.
Yeah. So the further I went down the rabbit hole, the more I realized that I only like the poppy songs.
Yeah. So Nine Inch Nails. I mean, I found them more on
Yeah.
on the poppier side.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was into Skinny Puppy. Ministry. Twitch Twitch was probably. We were beyond Twitch by the time Nine Inch Nails came out.
Yeah. But I mean, as I said, like the further down the industrial rabbit hole I went, the more I realized that I was only really interested in the bands that had some kind of, let's say, retention of the pop formula that I had grown up listening to. Because, even though rock music was forbidden, for some reason, top 40 pop music was okay.
Right.
And so I grew up with my mom listening to, I don't know if you have Kiss FM in Florida, but Kiss FM was like the top 40 records, record station. Why am I losing the word for it?
Radio station?
Radio station, that's
There
the
you
word,
go.
yeah. Sometimes I have these weird brain farts where I lose English words because I've been living in Austria for a few years.
Oh, okay.
And it happens to me where just words will disappear. It's
I
very
lose
bizarre.
English words because I'm an idiot. At least you have an excuse.
It could be because I'm an idiot and I'm just making up an excuse. But either way,
We'll go with the Austria thing.
all right, cool. So Yeah, that was the top 40 radio station in Southern California, and I grew up on Michael Jackson and Madonna, and that stuff really sort of, I think, set the tone for the kind of music that I would be interested in for the rest of my life. So even when I was searching for alternative music, I still found myself drawn to alternative music that was sort of hearkening back to that, still sort of like leaned on the tropes of pop music, which, Nine Inch Nails did very, very well. Marilyn Manson. But when I got, deeper, Skinny Puppy, that was harder for me to digest.
Right.
Ministry, little harder for me to digest. Of course, later Ministry. Once
Right.
I got With Sympathy, that was the sort of Rosetta Stone
Right.
for Ministry for me.
Oh, you're not allowed to talk about With Sympathy.
I understand that, but,
I still have it on vinyl, and I still love it.
It's a great record, and I understand Al has his qualms with it, which is fair, but
he's got no one to blame because he's literally the only person on that album. The rest of the band wasn't hired until after he recorded that. So,
I mean, that's kind of the world that I came from. And so industrial pop is really about trying to find a balance between these two sort of like conflicting, really musical philosophies.
Right.
That's what like industrial pop is for me.
Right. And as a music lover, I don't see a conflict. I mean, I think the conflict is more within this scene itself, people saying somebody's selling out or not selling out. In the meantime, the people saying somebody's selling out are creating nothing and doing nothing. But,
I mean,
music is music to me. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. But I think that, when you look really at the origins of what industrial music was supposed to be, it was like really anti-music, starting with Throbbing Gristle and all that kind of stuff. Cabaret Voltaire, whatever. There is definitely a conflict of artistic intentions and philosophies there between pop music and industrial music.
Right.
And so really it is me trying to reconcile these two opposing worldviews. But, I really do love conflict. I love tension. I think that's a part of what makes art interesting, is when there's a tension, So even if that never gets resolved, it's okay for me because that's kind of a part of art, right?
I want to pick up on the art side of the conversation, is the more I watch some of your videos, and to me, everything seems to be, it's a cabaret. It's an art project. And I think it's equally as important as the music itself.
Sure.
Or should I say, I feel you're projecting it's as important as the music itself. Is that, am I right on that, or?
Well, the music is the most important thing to me. It always has been, but as I get sort of further along in my career, maybe take a couple of steps back. When I was growing up, I resonated with artists like Nine Inch Nails, David Bowie, Marilyn Manson, Michael Jackson, these sort of like larger than life personas. But as I sort of neared my late teens and early 20s, I kind of embraced the idea of being not a character. So
Right.
I tried to make myself. And that was my persona. But as I got older, I realized people aren't really interested in watching that.
It's your
too
shtick.
It's too mundane.
Right.
We get we get to see the banal aspects of life every day. Art really needs to be an exaggeration of the mundane. It needs to be an exaggeration of real life. And so, actually, as I get older, I find myself becoming more interested in the extremes.
Right.
So I feel like even now, like, this incarnation of the band is the most extreme it's ever been. And I'm just going to keep going that way because I feel almost empowered by the funhouse mirror, reflection of who I am in the performance. It's much more it's much more enjoyable for me and it's much more enjoyable for the audience because it serves as a vehicle to get the music out there. I feel like everything I do is in service of the music. So, you know, making all the music videos, making all the crazy performances and YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, all that is like in service of being able to create more music. So if that's what I'm doing in order to create more music, then I'm happy.
Very good. I know we're very short for time with you, so I've got like I think maybe two more.
All right.
You were for a while you were doing a podcast series, if you want to call it that. You're doing a video series of just talking to your fans, and but I don't think you've done one in like a year. Is that a fair
Correct.
statement?
Yeah. It's been about a year.
And I love those. And one of those I'm going to hit on in a second. But any reason that you stopped that, or just
Time.
run out of time?
Time.
Time.
Yeah, I mean, I love doing it, and I think it's a great way for me to sort of communicate the things with my audience that I want to be able to communicate.
Right.
I found like a lot of interviewers don't really ask the questions that I want to answer.
Right.
You know, it's all sort of, why do you like music? How'd you get started? Blah, 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 blah. Those are fine questions, but it doesn't sort of get to the root of everything, which is really what I'm about. So
and you've got unlimited time when
exactly. And I get to choose the topic and the narrative and the flow and all that kind of stuff, and I can hit pause and start over when I make a mistake. So it's a great format. It's just
it's time consuming.
It's time consuming, especially when you're also like editing it.
Right.
So I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. So something that I feel a connection that a video that you did that really resonated with me, because I'm 24 years self-employed. I'm all about the hustle, and you did a video called The 10 Commandments, which I don't think are what's called strictly. I mean, it's not advice for musicians. It's advice for anybody that wants a career in anything. Yep.
Put your time in. You're going to suck at first. You are not going to be as good as the people you look up to, but you got to put your 10,000 hours in, and you got to work, and you got to get there. And I love that video, and I'm so happy that you put that out, and understand people that are watching that video. And by the way, I'm going to put a link to that video when I put this out on the YouTube.
Yeah.
I think it's important that anybody that's getting into a band see that. Don't quit. You've got to put your time in, and no one was ever good straight off the bat. Maybe Joey was, but
no, he wasn't. I promise. That is the thing that perplexes me the most about people that I come in contact with, who want to get started with any endeavor, really, is just like, these tips are applicable across the spectrum. It's really just about any sort of endeavor that you want to embark on in your life. And I sort of mourn the fact that more people are not willing to either internalize these things or, I guess, implement them in their own endeavors, right? Because I see so many talented people who just kind of never go anywhere simply because they're not willing to put in the time or effort, and it's always very frustrating. It's very frustrating to me to watch, like, incredibly skilled, talented people not make the most out of those talents,
right?
Or visions, right? A lot of people with great visions, but they're too afraid to take that leap and make it a reality. So, yeah, I mean, I make these videos really to speak to my younger self, mostly because my younger self was a a complete idiot. I'm still an idiot, but I'm less of an idiot now, and I'm hoping that in 20 years I'll look back at myself and go, yeah, that guy was an idiot, but he was trying his best. So, you know, life is just a progression of making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and continuing on, because what else are you going to do? Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's really it.
And I gotta say, I love the work ethic. I mean, I was sitting here watching you during sound check. I mean, you're not waiting on anybody for anything. If something needs to be done, you're doing it. You're not barking orders. You're not saying, "Hey, can you?" You just handle it. Anything needs to be done, you're crawling around on your hands and knees, and you're just doing it.
If anybody says that's not my job, they're not on my team.
Right.
Because
A players,
like, you got to be willing to get your hands dirty. And if you're not going to get down on all fours on a beer-soaked carpet and plug in cables, then you're not cut out for this business.
awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight. Soundcheck was great.
Thank you.
And it's going to be a great show. Thanks so much for spending time with us tonight.
Good to be back. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.